show started now?
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever and wherever you're watching or listening. This is the Awesemo NHL DFS Strategy Show, and I'm your host, Michael Clifford, a.k.a. Slim Cliffy. Joining me to talk about Roman Josi for the next hour, our single entry assassin, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how you doing today, buddy?
They're trying to make him unplayable, man. He's 8,700 on DraftKings tonight. A combo meal only 2x's his salary. But like, if he scores, like he's gonna with the combo meal, he's gonna pay off that his salary. His back's back on the road, but like, dude's on a tear. So I think at 8,700, you still gotta consider him.
I don't remember seeing anything remotely like this from a defenseman in recent history. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl at the end of last year went on an absolute bananas tear. Like, I think McDavid had like 50 points in his last 25 games or something. It was something crazy like that. Since the All-Star break, Roman Josi, 17 games played, 33 points. This is a defenseman putting up almost 2 points per game for 6 weeks now. I honestly have not seen anything like this. Like, I remember Mike Green, maybe like 10 or so years ago, had a 30-goal, 70-point season or something for Nashville. Obviously, John Carlson, I think, recently had like a 75 or 80-point season. This guy's on pace for like 100 points as a defenseman. Like, I don't think we've seen anything like this since the 1980s. Like, and then the top line on top of that, Philip Forsberg went absolutely nuke city last night. Did you have any Forsberg in your lineups?
No. So, I had the Terry line, and then when I saw them switch it back to Terry, Zegras, Grant, I was like, I'm leaving Comtois because he's on the power play. I don't want to play Grant. He's old. 2 goals, shot bonus. I bubbled. Scenes.
Yeah, that's just kind of the way it goes. I mean, I don't blame you either. Like, Derek Grant, typically not a very good DFS option, regardless of the price, but he certainly did well last night. I got a DM from Provius. Provius also did very well last night. He had Josi, Nashville 1, finished second in the quarter arcade and the hit check as well. And Bill Dozer also finished third in the quarter arcade, had a couple top 10 finishes in the hit check. So pretty good night if you rostered Nashville. If you didn't roster Nashville, real tough night. I did not roster Nashville either, so I did not have a good night last night. But we are here for this massive 11-game slate that we have coming up tonight. The DraftKings has a big tournament going on today. The spin, 100K to first, 300K prize pool. There's been some back and forth in our Discord about that prize structure. But we don't get very many tournaments with 6 figures up top in NHL. So at least it's something for maybe some higher stakes casual people to glom onto a little bit. Before we get too much further, just want to give a shout out to Yahoo Fantasy. Yahoo has been our sponsor this entire season, and we are giving away a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, and also Yahoo's giving away a little bit of money for first-time Yahoo DFS players. So if you haven't played on Yahoo before, stick around. We'll have a deal through Yahoo we'll talk about a little bit later in the show. And if everybody in the chat could, please throw us a thumbs up, click that like button. It really helps us out. Click the subscribe button if you haven't already. The subscriptions really help us out a lot, help grow this channel, help keep these shows coming on a regular basis. I mean, NHL is going to be around for at least 2 more months, right? Because it's going right to the end of April in the regular season, and then the first 2 weeks or so, we usually do shows for the first round of the playoffs and all that. And then, of course, MLB starts here in a couple of weeks. NBA still in full swing. We got PGA, MMA, NASCAR, lots of stuff. So make sure you click that subscribe button and click the bells to get alerts whenever those shows do go live. Up on the site today, we have NBA player projections and NHL ownership projections. So whether you're playing NBA or NHL tonight, there's stuff up on Awesemo.com to help you out. We also have PGA Top Golfers. I believe it was the golf show that just finished before us. So you have those guys. You have our PGA Top Golfers up on Awesemo.com, all free for anybody to go view right now. We're also giving away a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum through our podcast channel. So head on over to the Awesemo podcast channel. The link is down below. And just leave a 5-star review with your Twitter handle or your Awesemo username, and you'll be entered to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. All right, Josh, we've got a big 11-game slate ahead here. Lots of changes to lineups, obviously, because of the trade deadline and stuff like that. I would also mention there's a lot of teams that had something that would be called like optional skates or didn't even have one this morning because there are new players coming in. So it's likely, maybe they just had a quick workout, maybe a video session, and then that's it. So there are going to be some spots where lineup information is going to be spotty. The usual suspects apply here, but even more so, like there's an original 6 team where we have no idea how they're going to line up here tonight. So just be warned that lineups could change quite drastically between now and when the puck drops. So we're going with what we have now, going with, what teams went with yesterday or in their last game or something like that. Just beware that things could change. All right, let's get to these games, Josh. Your New York Rangers have a 3.3 implied goal total. They're going into New Jersey to face the Devils. The Devils have a 2.7 implied goal total. The Rangers, one of those teams that did make some changes. Andrew Kopp was traded for yesterday. Looks like he's going to come in on the third line with Philip Hedl. Frank Vatrano was traded last week, so I think he's had 2 games there, at least one so far. So he's on the second line with Artemi Panarin and Ryan Strome. Igor is in net. Igor is also very expensive at 8,200 on the road, at least over on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's 8,600 on the road. That feels like a good goalie spot to get away from. But that doesn't mean that we are not playing Rangers or we're not playing Devils. I think there's stuff on both sides. What do you think?
Yeah. So how do you think the Devils match is probably going to be Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt going out against Mika Zibanejad. So, that line has been pretty good defensively. I'm not really itching to play Rangers top line here in an 11-game slate. You can power play stack, but that is pretty expensive on the road here. So that would, go down to the second line here. Jack Hughes, Mercer, Sharangovich against Strome, Panarin, Vatrano. Now, the Hughes line without Bratt is pretty high event both ways. They give up a lot of chances, but now Vatrano's been there for 3 games. They have a 35-minute sample, and it is not pretty. But, what do you really expect from a Strome Panarin line? It's 38% Corsi 4 percentage, and they're giving up over 3.5 expected goals per 60. So, I see them coming in at 8% on an 11-game slate. And I guess it's fine. And maybe those numbers stabilize a little bit, but I'm not itching to play a line at 8% on an 11-game slate that just does not have good numbers. I'd be more apt to just use the Jack Hughes line or use the Nico Hischier line here. The problem is I don't really feel like stacking against Igor on an 11-game slate either. So this game kind of feels like an MME type deal. Andrew Kopp on that third line that's a 2-center line with Dryden Hunt. I'm fine with leaving Hedl at center. His numbers at center are way better than wing, but when Capo Kakko comes back healthy, I think that's when you can start really considering using some more depth of the Rangers, because that's going to slide Vatrano down to the third line. Kopp, Hedl, Vatrano line could be usable, but tonight, power play stacking Rangers is fine in MME. I think using the top or second line is fine. I'm not going to prioritize them, especially that second line at their ownership. So I'm going to move to the Devil side. There's almost no ownership there. The thing is, I don't want to, in 1 to 3 lineups, I don't really want to stack against Igor either. So if I do anything on the Devil side, it'd be like a Hischier Bratt. I'd use that line, but I use it in MME only, get a little bit in 20 or a little bit in 150, but I don't think I'm going to prioritize anything, at least from, lines wise in 1 to 3.
Yeah, we talk often about, you talked about the Rangers power play stack in this game. We talk a lot about how important the Rangers power play is to their team. The New Jersey Devils, since Valentine's Day, the least amount of time while shorthanded in the NHL. Like the penalty kill isn't like super elite or anything. It's about average, but they just don't take penalties. They're at the bottom of the league for time shorthanded. So that's kind of the problem here. Is like if the Rangers only get 1 or 2 power plays, like how high is the upside for a team that we don't know if they're going to be good at 5-on-5, right? Like you mentioned, like the issue with Toronto, we talked about it when he got traded for, is like he's not really a playmaker, right? And he's not good defensively. So that line would have bad numbers kind of makes sense. Like to me, he's like a diet Patrick Laine. That's the way I would explain it. Obviously nowhere near the shot, the elite conversion, the elite shot that Laine has. It's just, he's that kind of style of player. So I agree with you on New Jersey, on Hischier and Bratt. I think that's probably the line I would go to. Like I know Panarin, Strome, and Vetrano probably won't be very good together. And, Hughes and Sharon Govich at least have a pretty good sample going back to last year. But Hischier and Bratt, like they've been absolute dynamite together. I mean, in 50 minutes in so far this month, 40 scoring chances per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. Like that's just outstanding. And like running into Igor does suck. But the Rangers also have a very bad penalty kill. One of the worst in the league over the last 6 weeks. And Hischier and Bratt are both on the top PP unit. So if anything in this game, it's probably Hischier and Bratt. I'm not sure if I'm going to get to them in 20s in my 20 max, because like you said, facing off against Igor is a problem, but they're at least going to be in consideration for me. Like they project well for me, very low ownership. By our top stacks tool, we have them coming in at about 2%. So I think it's just fine to two-man Hischier and Bratt here in this game. On the blue line, like we said in the last time the Rangers played, they're really starting to spread out a little bit of the ice time. Adam Fox at 6,900 on the road when he's really power play reliant just feels really expensive. Jacob Trouba 5,700 while losing ice time. Like I just don't know if there's a lot I really want to play for defensemen in this game. Like maybe Dougie, but I think there are better expensive options. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't really like the defenseman in this game. If you could guarantee me Justin Braun playing 18 minutes, maybe at min price, but who knows down on the third pair. I would assume Gallant's going to try to get him some minutes, but I just don't know. So I'm probably just going to look elsewhere for defensemen from this game.
Yep, I agree with that. Let's move along to Columbus with a 2.5 implied goal total. They're going into Pittsburgh. The Penguins have a 4.0 implied goal total. This is one of those games where we don't have a lineup confirmation just yet, and that's because Rickard Rakell was traded to Pittsburgh yesterday. The expectation is that he's going to go to the second line. Brian Rust had been moved down there recently to play with Malkin. The expectation is that Rakell goes to the second line. Rust goes back to the top line, and then Evan Rodriguez back to the third line with Jeff Carter. That is what I think it was Josh Yohe, one of the Penguins beat writers, wrote about. Like he expects Brian Rust to go back to the top line. Just beware, just watch for warm-ups in case something weird does happen here. But that's what we're expecting. On the Jacket side, obviously they traded Max Domi. He's gone from the bottom six. Boone Jenner's still hurt, so Jack Rosovic's still the top line center. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, even if Sullivan speaks at 4:35 p.m. Eastern, he's not going to say anything of use. So, you really, really won't know until warm-ups hit. But I think that's a fair assumption from the beat writer that they're going to, put Gensel, Crosby, and Rust back together. And they're the most expensive line on DraftKings, if that is the case. I think they're, 14? Yeah, 22.7. And I think there's enough value lines tonight that you can play them. Like they're coming in double digits, but they still have good positive leverage per our tap stacks tool, and they're going to get Roslovic Laine. I know Roslovic and Laine have had better numbers together than you would expect, but it's still Pittsburgh one here. Philly Cora in the power play. It's Jonas Koper-Salo. It's not Merzlikins. So yeah, I'm in on Pitt one here. I think the question for Pittsburgh here is if it is Heinen, Malkin, Rakell, what do you do with Rakell? Because he's min priced on DraftKings. And I doubt he's going to see top power play time, but he's going to see even strength minutes with Evgeny Malkin and Danton Heinen, which makes that line 11 and change to full stack, which lets you get in whatever you want, really. Ricard Raquel is kind of, he's similar to he's better than Vetrano, but he's not really a play driver. He's more of a shooter. So, I mean, I think that's fine on this line. And I'm in price tonight going into Sillinger, Voracek, Bjorkstrand, or Ralsvik, Line, whatever it is fine. I just worry a little bit about his ownership, especially people trying to like jam in some expensive stuff. You're going to see a fair bit of one-off Ricard Raquel tonight. I think a nice way to just be different is full stack pit 2 here. And if you want to go to pit 3, assuming it's Kapanen, Carter, Rodriguez, I think that's fine as well. They're getting, 1-2%, which is fine for a third line. About, you don't want to see it much higher, but they're going to get bottom 6 matchups of the Jackets, which is a plus for them. A Kapanen, Carter, Rodriguez line on a lot of non-playoff teams would be a top 6 line. So, I'm fine with pit 3 as well. But pit 1's my favorite. On the Jacket side, I think if anything, it would be Voracek, Sillinger, Bjorkstrand, but I don't think I'm going to prioritize the Jackets in 1 to 3. They'd probably just be a filler if they got into my lineup organically in 150.
So here's my issue with Pittsburgh. Like, obviously, this is a great spot for them, especially with Elvis Merzlikins injured. Like, it's Jonas Korpisalo playing. That's a downgrade in net. Pittsburgh's top line just hasn't been playing well. There was a very good reason why Brian Rust got moved down to the second line, and it was because the top line was struggling. Their last 70 minutes together, 44% of the shot share, 48% of the scoring chances. Like, that's just terrible. Like, there's just no way around that. And Pittsburgh's top line over on DraftKings today is the most expensive line by over $3,000. And if you're looking at FanDuel, they're also the most expensive line by over $2,000. Like, if you're playing Pittsburgh here today, you won't have high ownership on them. That's for sure, because they are so expensive. There are so many reasonably affordable lines. But it's really going to hamper what you can do with the rest of your lineup. And like I said, this is a great spot. Don't get me wrong. Going into that Roslovic line is a very good matchup. But that Pittsburgh top line it just has not played well for quite a while now. And that's one of the concerns that we have when stacking this line. And if you look at Crosby's numbers, basically over the last month, they're not bad. Like, he has 7 goals in 12 games or something like that. Like, that's fine, but they're not having these monster games like, Philip Forsberg had last night, or the 3 or 4 point nights or stuff like that. Those aren't coming to fruition. No problem playing Pittsburgh 1, because by our leverage and by our top stacks, it's a great spot. It's just they're really expensive and haven't been playing well. And I think that's just one point of concern I have here. Pittsburgh 2, I'm out on. Like, they're just going to be too popular as a filler. I think I'd rather just kind of, even Josh stack them or power play stack them or something like that. On the Columbus side, the top line actually hasn't been that bad with Jack Roslovic there. And as we said, the Pittsburgh top line hasn't been good. I don't think you have to full stack the Columbus top line, but like a Roslovic line A 2-man, or even just one-offing line A or something like that, I think is just fine here. So on the Pittsburgh side, I think I like power play stacking a little bit more. Columbus's penalty kill isn't bad, but it's not great. So I think I like some sort of Pittsburgh power play stack here. On the Columbus side, it would be Columbus 1, maybe some one-offs from that line. That's about it. On the blue line, just nothing that really sticks out to me on either side. Like, if you're correlating, obviously Letang and Werenski are fine. Like, at least Peak has come down to a reasonable price, like for a block shot bonus on DraftKings. So maybe Peak, but that's about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree there. I was just thinking, like, because Ricard Raquel he hasn't practiced with the team, I wouldn't be shocked to see the second line still Heinen, Malkin, Rust, with Erod on the top line. They start Raquel with Jeff Carter or something like that. Like, it's possible.
Yeah.
So, have some swaps ready, because Erod $2,300 cheaper than Rust on DraftKings. So just be ready. But yeah, I think, Andrew Peak would be the guy for shot blocking. Outside of Letang, probably not much on the Pittsburgh side.
All right, let's get to the Washington game then. St. Louis, the Blues have a 2.8 implied goal total. They're going to Washington. The Capitals have a 3.3 implied goal total. On the St. Louis side, they traded for Nick Leddy. I think he'll be in the lineup tonight next to Colton Parayko on the top pair. I shouldn't laugh because you know what that means. It's a Nick Leddy 1 goal, 1 assist night coming right away because we laughed at him. That's usually the way these things go. Also on the St. Louis side, Robert Thomas is hurt. He's out tonight. He's off the second line. So Braden Shen will be taking a spot with Jordan Kyrou and Pavel Buchnevich. On the Washington side, they traded for Marcus Johansson. Looks like he's going right to the top line with Evgeny Kuznetsov and Alex Ovechkin. I mean, if this was 2017, I could kind of understand, but Marcus Johansson just hasn't done anything for like 4 years now, basically since he left Washington. Maybe he'll get rejuvenated there. I don't know, but I don't know. Seems kind of a long shot. TJ Oshie skated this morning for Washington, but he stayed on after to get some practice in. That's usually an indication that he's not ready to return from injury, but he could be back tonight. It's just one of those things we'll have to watch for when warmups hit. What do you think about this one, Josh?
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of this game. Like Marcus Johansson, you saw him on Seattle. He wasn't great with Seattle.
He hasn't been great in a lot of places.
Yeah, he hasn't been good for a while. Like I just don't know. Like playing next to Ovechkin maybe helps, but like I don't know. Like I just hate stacking the Caps as it is, and like Marcus Johansson top line tonight. I don't know. I feel like it's just gonna be what I normally do with the Caps, is just like plug in Ovechkin and like working people around him. Like we just don't know what the second or third line. Like if Oshie's in, does he slot in on that second line with Mantha and Backstrom? Or is it Tom Wilson there? Or like we just don't know. There's question marks there too. Like Backstrom and Mantha should be a good line. They just haven't gotten off to a good start, and it's fine because like Mantha was out for 5 months with shoulder surgery, so like you just don't know what to expect. I don't really love this matchup. So if anything, I probably just stack the top line. Or do you like Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, Carlson, who was also banged up the other day, but he seems fine. So I think that's what I would do with the Caps, is just go Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, Carlson. I don't know what the matchup's going to be. Like if Kuznetsov, Ovechkin gets O'Reilly Perron, like I don't love that. And they're coming in at, like 5, 6, 7%. So despite the total on the Caps, I just don't like much here. And I've said it before, if the Caps break a slate, I'm never going to win money because I'm never on the Caps. It is what it is. I hate stacking them. So, yeah, in MME, I'll have some Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, Carlson. I just don't know what I would want a full stack here. Like Mantha, Backstrom, X, like whoever it is, Wilson, Oshie, Sheary, McMichael, like we don't know. On paper, should be fine avoiding O'Reilly. On an 11-game slate, I don't like it. And then on the Blues side, I don't mind the top line here, Sato, Riley, Perron. They're coming in 2.5%, 3%. If they get that Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, Johansson line, like that has to be favorable to them. Ryan O'Reilly's kind of started to figure it out offensively. He's in a price range where you can pay to find out. They're fully correlated. Washington's a pretty good team. They still have issues in net, though. So if you want to go to that second line, I do like the pair of Kyrou, Buchnevich. Not a huge fan of Shen, but he's there. So you could play him. He is on a power play unit. So don't mind that second line either. I just don't know if this is a game where I'm going to prioritize anything in 1 to 3.
Yeah. Before like their a little spurt here against Pittsburgh and Columbus, like O'Reilly did have 6 points in 6 games, taking over 2 shots per game, which, that's a giant improvement for him. We talked about how St. Louis top line had been turning it around over the last month or so. Their last 50 minutes together, 40 scoring chances generated in those 50 minutes, or 40 per 60 minutes in those 50, I should say. So you're right. Washington typically splits the shutdown minutes between Kuznetsov and whatever line Lars Eller's on. That's probably going to be the 4th line here today. I can't imagine that Washington top line is going to provide much resistance to Sad, O'Reilly, and Perron. So I agree with you. I think St. Louis 1 is definitely in play here for us tonight. You can full stack them if you want, because I think this is a better 5-on-5 matchup than it is a power play matchup. I don't think it's a particularly good power play matchup for St. Louis. And it's not a good power play matchup for Washington either. That's kind of the thing that bothers me here is they really do have to get there at 5-on-5. Like, I mean, anything can happen in a single game, right? Like they could go out and score 3 power play goals against this team here. But St. Louis, top 10 by fewest expected goals against while shorthanded over the last 6 weeks. Like they're playing really well. Even the goaltending is holding up too. So if you want to play Washington, I would probably dip down to the second line. Mantha, Backstrom, Oshie. I think they can really wreak some havoc against that Kyrou, Shen, Buchnevich line. Like Kyrou's not really good defensively, and Shen's not having a good defensive season either. So I think Washington's second line can really take advantage of some soft-ish matchups. And they're not coming in with much ownership, 3% by our top stacks tool. So, I mean, you don't have to full stack him. You can do 2 out of 3 and add in John Carlson for some power play exposure if you want. But I don't mind that Washington second line here tonight. Washington 2, St. Louis 1. On the blue line, Nick Leddy, min price. I mean, he's probably going to play north of 20 minutes. He typically doesn't do much peripherally is the problem. Like he has to get there on the scoreboard. We'll see what happens. There's just not really much for defensemen I like in this game.
Yeah, same. Like maybe Fairvary at 2,900, maybe Nick Jensen at min price. But like, I'm just going to look elsewhere.
Yep. No problem with that. Get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our top stacks, our lineup builder, and a whole lot more. Of course, if you're only looking to play NHL DFS, then you can sign up for one of our Awesemo Plus NHL packages for as low as $3.95 a week. Please note that Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and can be easily added on to any of these packages at checkout, but it is not included in our base package. However, it is a very valuable addition to your DFS arsenal. So for those looking to enter multi-enter contests, make sure to add on Fantasy Cruncher. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. All right, Tampa Bay, 2.8 implied goal total. They're going to Carolina. Carolina also has a 2.8 implied goal total. Couple changes, additions on the Tampa Bay side. They've already been playing, though. Nick Paul and Brandon Hagel down on the third line for Tampa Bay. On the Carolina side, they added Max Domi, but he's not expected to play here tonight. So I wouldn't worry about him. Just keep an eye on warmups. Nino Niederreiter expected to be back in the lineup on the third line for the Hurricanes. Tony DeAngelo returned over the weekend as well, and we've talked about how this Tampa Bay penalty kill has really been struggling of late. Not a huge total on either side, but really good players on both sides. What do you think?
Yeah, and I feel like the first thing you notice is Vasilevsky's price on DraftKings, 7,400. And then you couple that with Alex Georgiev having like a 42 save shutout against these Canes on Sunday. So I feel like Vasilevsky is going to be popular. He should be popular anyway at that price, but couple that with them getting shut out, the Hurricanes having a 2.8 total. I don't know. I feel like this is a decent spot to power play stack the Hurricanes here. They did mix up their lines. So, the top line isn't fully correlated, but they did go 11-7 last game. But with Nino Niederreiter back, they may, go back to, I didn't see if they had a morning skate, but I would imagine they go back to Teravainen, Aho, Jarvis, and then Svechnikov, Trocheck, Netchus. And that, puts 2 guys on power play 1 on the first line, 2 guys on power play 2 or power play 1 on the second line. So I don't mind going to that top line here. Maybe I like the second line more because I feel like I want to pick on Stamkos at center more than I want to go into Point Cirelli Palat from 5-on-5. That being said, power play stacking is completely fine. It's going to be pretty pricey though. Aho 7,400, Svechnikov 7,100, Teravainen not cheap at 6,300 either. So I don't know if I'm really going to prioritize the Canes here in a 2.8 total in 1 to 3, but at this ownership, I think you can. That second line is coming in at 1.5%. Top line coming in at 1%. I think this is a sneaky good spot. Like, I do really like that third line of the Tampa now. Paul, Colton, Hagel. They really just like remade their Gaudreau Coleman line for way cheaper. But like Tampa's not at home, so that line's going to see bottom six matchups. So I don't think you have to worry about it too much today. So I don't really mind the top six of the Hurricanes today, especially at that ownership. On the Tampa Bay side, I don't mind that top line either. They're coming in at 2%. They're fully correlated. Carolina takes a lot of penalties. They do have a very good penalty kill, but you give Stamkos Kucherov 3, 4, 5 opportunities tonight, there's a good chance they're going to put one in. So I'm in on Tampa 1 here, despite the 2.8 total. Like, when you get similar totals, 2.8 home and road, I tend to go towards the road because they're generally a better team. Because if Tampa was home here tonight, they'd probably have over a 3 total. So I'm in on Tampa 1 more than Carolina, but I think there is some merit to going to Carolina here tonight.
Yeah, it is Carolina that I do want to start with. Their second line hasn't been great defensively, but has really been generating offensively. In 120 minutes, that Trocheck, Svechnikov, Natchez line, 70 shot attempts per 60 minutes, 34 scoring chances per 60 minutes. That is really, really good. They're going to go into that Tampa top line with Stamkos and Kucherov and Killorn. Not a big sample from them yet, but they haven't been very good defensively either. Like, both of these lines have performed fairly similarly at 5-on-5 so far this year. And as we mentioned, the Tampa Bay penalty kill has not been very good. Bottom 5 by expected goals against over the last 6 weeks, like the middle of the league by actual goals against per 60 minutes, but they also lead the league in time shorthanded. So they're not allowing a ton of goals per minute, but they're also taking a lot of penalties per game. So it's leading to more power play goals against per game. So like Trocheck, Svechnikov, D'Angelo, I think is fine here. Just full stacking the Carolina second line, I think is fine here. They're going to be really in consideration for me in my 20 max here tonight because there's no ownership on them. It's a great power play spot for them. And they're not expensive on either sites, or at least the second line isn't. So I do like Carolina too here in this game. That would be if I was looking for a line on the Carolina side, that would be the one I would go to. On the Tampa side, it might actually be that Palat Point Cirelli line that I like the most here. And the reason I say that is because I think they're going to avoid the shutdown line from Jordan Staal at 5-on-5, and that's at Carolina 3 line. In the month of March, only 16 scoring chances allowed per 60 minutes. They've been outstanding defensively. So I think Kucherov sees that shutdown line. Carolina does have a great penalty kill. So like, I think it's more about a 5-on-5 matchup against Carolina here. And in that case, I would go to Palat Point and Cirelli coming in with almost no ownership either. But it's really Carolina 2 that I like the most in this game. So it's Carolina 2 for me. On the blue line, nobody like really sticks out price wise. Like, Carolina's 4 guys on DraftKings over 4K, but under 5,500. Like, if you think the power play is going to get there, Tony DeAngelo, obviously just fine. On the Tampa side, Sergachev's starting to get a little bit cheaper or reasonable. He's been hovering around the high 4s of late. I don't mind that. I'm not sure I can get up to Hedman at 7,100 in this power play matchup. What do you think?
Yeah, it's probably DeAngelo or Sergachev for me, or punting with Chernak. He just hasn't been great recently. So probably just a correlation play here. I don't really know, unless you see a Ruda Bogosian third pair, it does worry me that McDonough's down in the third pair. So it's probably going to be Sergachev or Chernak for me.
All right, let's get to our next one. Philly, 2.8 implied goal total going into Detroit. The Red Wings have a 3.2 implied goal total. This is probably the most problematic spot on the entire slate. There's a number of reasons. One, it's a 7:30 Eastern start, which means it starts after lock.
Flex to 7:30, the Wings.
2, Vladislav Nemesnikov was traded yesterday by Detroit, but he was also at morning skate for Detroit, skating on the top line where he had been for like the last month. Obviously, that top line is going to change who do they move up there? Like they have been playing Jakub Vrana on the third line. So, it would make some sense that they could just move him up to the top line, but they also traded for Oscar Sundqvist. And he at times had been in the top 6 over in St. Louis. We've even seen Joe Veleno get some top 6 minutes. Do they reunite old Detroit 1 and throw Tyler Bertuzzi up there with Larkin and Raymond? We just don't know what's going to happen with the Detroit side. What you're seeing at via lineup builders and lineup sites and all that, it's just guessing. On the Flyers side, Claude Giroux is gone. So is Derek Brassard. So their top 6 centers are out of the lineup. And Jerry Mayhew, I guess he was claimed off waivers. That's not as big of a deal. But I guess Scott Laughton and Kevin Hayes are going to be their top 6 centers now. It's just a matter of who skates with who. We have Hayes skating with Farabee and Konechny as he had been. Laughton jumping into the spare spot between Van Riemsdyk and Atkinson. This game looks like a disaster to me. What do you think?
Yeah, so in practice yesterday, Detroit ran Bertuzzi, Suter, Vrana. If I had to take an educated guess and Blashill doesn't mess up that second line, which is certainly possible because it's Jeff Blashill, I would imagine Filip Zadina jumps to the top line. That's just an educated guess. That being said, we don't really know what Blashill could do because he'll practice with one thing and just do another because he's Jeff Blashill and he feels like it. So the one thing is going to be together is going to be Larkin Raymond. That's about the only thing you can predict from this lineup tonight is Larkin Raymond. So is it Vrana? Is it Bertuzzi? Is it Zadina? Is it Ernie? Is it Sundqvist? Is it Veleno? Probably Giovanni Smith. Could it be Sam Gagner?
Please not.
I just don't know. So it's hard to really assume here. I think what you can do is build with Vrana there, right? Hope it's Vrana. If it's not, you're going to have a swap to someone who's cheaper, unless it's Bertuzzi. So, if you're into Detroit 1 tonight, because, they're going to, Larkin and Raymond are on the top power play. You build with Vrana there. If it's Zadina, you get an extra 2K to work with there. Or you just power play stack Vrana, Larkin, Raymond. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, this is a good power play spot anyway. The Flyers just a shell of who they were at the beginning of the season. So, like, it could be good from an ownership perspective, not knowing the Detroit lines until 7:28 because their beat writers don't exist, and we'll get like a Detroit Red Wings like team like here's the starters, and it's probably gonna be Sundqvist, Giovanni Smith, and Joe Veleno, and we won't know anyway. But like, I don't know. If I had to guess, it'd be Larkin, Raymond, Zadina. I just don't know. So like, you can stack Bertuzzi, Suter, Vrana because they were practicing together yesterday. I'm interested in the Red Wings. I just don't know what they're going to be. I think you just got to take an educated guess and hope you hit the right connections and hope you get news and have swaps ready between 7 and 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So on the Flyer side, like I saw people talking about Kevin Hayes and like he's been scoring more, but he has not. It's smoke and mirrors here. Like his numbers are still brutal. Now this is a pretty good matchup, and like he has decent wingers here. So I guess in MME you can go Farabee, Hayes, Konechny because it is the Detroit Red Wings. Like they're just not a good team, so you can. The numbers of those guys together are pretty putrid, but they do have a 2.8 total on the road, and there isn't much else that I like going down the lineup. Like maybe a Van Riemsdyk, Atkinson 2-man, maybe Frost Tippett if you want to get min price guys on power play 1, but if I had a full stack anything, it would probably be Farabee, Hayes, Konechny.
Yeah, I mean Detroit has been awful defensively of late, and I guess Scott Laughton skating with Cam Atkinson can be fine. Atkinson has generally been fine with just about any center he's had. Like I would say fine for Philadelphia. So like a Laughton Atkinson 2-man, I think is perfectly okay in this matchup. It's not like Detroit is very good. For the Red Wings, I think this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to build with Larkin, Raymond, Bertuzzi as the top line. And I'm going to make sure I have nothing but punts as my defenseman. Uelevi, Wallman, Lindstrom, probably Jake Wallman. Like, I was excited to see Wallman head to Detroit. I'm a fan of his. I'd like to see what he can do with a bigger role. So, like, Bertuzzi, Larkin, Raymond, and Wallman is probably the way I would stack. And then if we get Jakub Vrana on the top line, you can just drop from Bertuzzi down to Vrana and then, Wallman up to, Hronek or something like that. If it's Zadina and you're saving over $4,000, like, you can just move up from Wallman to Moritz Cedar or something like that, right? So I think there are ways that you can plan for the late swap that is going to be incoming. And not to mention, there are, 6 other games that start after this. So, like, as long as you don't have it with one of the first 4 games and you have late swap, you don't really have to worry too much. So I would also be careful with whom you stack Detroit. But yeah, I really do love the top line, like Larkin, Raymond, X, whatever it is. Like, I've been playing Vladislav Nemestikov. Surely it's not going to be worse than that.
Oh, so, don't you say that. Don't you say that.
Yeah, stay here as long as you can. The Flyers goaltending has just been brutal on the penalty kill. So yeah, if you want to it ends up being a power play stack anyway. If Bertuzzi's not on that line, you can just leave him. I think it's fine. But I do like Detroit top line here tonight. So it's Detroit top line. If you want to get to like a 2-man of Lawton and Atkinson, I think that's fine as well. But it's mostly Detroit 1 for me in this game. On the blue line, like I said, I'm a Jake Wallman fan. I don't know how much ice time they're going to give him here tonight. We'll see what happens. But 2,500 in this matchup, I think there are worse punts to make. On the Flyers side, I don't see anybody that I really want to play. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like, Sanheim's fine at 3,900, but he's one of those guys, like, if I'm down to my last roster spot with 3,900, I'll play him, but I'm not going to put him into my lineup to build around.
Yep.
I'm kind of interested in Wallman too, because they traded Troy Stetcher out of there and they brought in Wallman. So they specifically targeted him. So like maybe he does get some good minutes. So
I mean, if there's one thing Detroit's been good at since Eisman has gotten there, it seems like they've gotten pretty good at drafting and targeting defensemen that are useful. So like, let's hope there's something here with Wallman. We talked about Yahoo a little bit earlier in the show, and we have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NHL season to bring you some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link below, deposit and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you played in your first paid contest, and we will reach out via email with your coupon. Make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. All right, let's get to our next game. Ottawa, 2.1 implied goal total. They're going into New York to face the Islanders. The New York Islanders have a 3.5 implied goal total. As we mentioned, Nick Paul was traded from Ottawa. They got back Matthew Joseph. Looks like he's going to be lining up on the third line. Thomas Chabot, obviously out. He's out for the rest of the season. I think it was with a broken hand. Eric Brandstrom still expected to run the top power play unit here for Ottawa, but this isn't a very good matchup for them. I think a lot of people, it seems like, are going to be not a lot of people, but it does seem like a fair bit of people are going to be playing Islanders here tonight. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I do like that Sens top line, though. I just don't know if I'm going to use them tonight. They have, it's a small sample, but since Colin White moved up with Norris Kachuk, their numbers are excellent. That being said, they're going to get, a sludge matchup with Bailey, JG Pajot, and Palmieri. So that, coupled with the Islanders don't take penalties, I don't know, 2.1 total on the road. I think there's reason to fade Ottawa top line. You want to get to a little bit in MME, that's perfectly fine. Like, they're creating over 4 expected goals per 60. It's a small sample, but anytime you see numbers like that, it does pique your interest. Where I'm looking tonight is the Islanders top line. Lee, Nelson, Beauvillier. They've been excellent since they got put together. They're creating a ton of chances. They're coming in at like 6-7%, which I think is fine in this matchup. I don't know. Islanders 3.5 total just gives me nausea. Like, they just they just been, Vegas, for whatever reason, has just been pumping them all season. I guess, like, for good reason. They've turned it around after the first few months of the season. The first few months of the season were a festival for them anyway. They're on the road for like a month because their new stadium or their new arena wasn't ready. So I'm in on Islanders 1. Islanders 2 is okay. Like, newly extended Zach Parise. I don't know. Like, I'd maybe go Barzal, Wallstrom. And that third line, is just pretty low event. But like JG Pajot at 3,300 on the top power play is not too bad. But it's probably just going to be Islanders 1.
Yeah, Islanders have been a lot better offensively of late. I'm just looking at their recent games in March. I think it's 9 out of the 11 games they've scored at least 3 goals. A big problem with the Islanders, well, 2 problems. One, they tend to spread out both the skill and the ice time. So they basically have 3 lines that can score. And if you look at our lineup builder at Awesemo.com, you'll kind of see it play out in the projections. We have 3 lines projected within 7 DraftKings points of each other. All 3 of the top 3 Islanders lines are within 7 DraftKings points of each other by our projections, by our lineup builder. So it's kind of the issue with the Islanders is, like, yes, they might have a 3.5 in total, implying that they might get like 4 goals here tonight. Seems pretty reasonable to expect maybe like 4 goals from 4 different lines, the way that they run this team. That's kind of the issue. But with all that said, I do really like the Islanders top line here tonight. They're not using them as the shutdown line as they have in prior iterations. They're going out against second and third lines, and they've been very good together. 120 minutes together. They're generating 39 scoring chances per 60 minutes. That's just monstrous. I really do like that Islanders top line here tonight. Lee, Nelson, Beauvillier. I think if you're going to leave off anybody, it'd be Beauvillier because he's on the second power play unit, but I think all 3 of them are honestly just fine to play together. So the Islanders top line for me, Bailey, Pajot, and Palmieri would probably be the line that I would avoid. Bailey still hasn't turned his season around. He's the one guy that really hasn't. I think the last time I said that, he scored.
Twice.
Twice. So, like, I mean, anything can happen, but he's really not helping out that line. So it'd be Parise, Barzal, and Wallstrom that I would stack if you're looking for a cheaper secondary stack from the Islanders. But I do like Islanders 1 in this game. On the blue line, I mean, our boy the Zoob, 3,500, or Nick Holden getting some ice time, could get some block shots against the Islanders here tonight. But that's basically about it from them. On the Islanders side, like Dobson, 6K feels expensive, but man, he's been pretty good for the last month. What do you think?
Yeah, you take away the name and just put up his stats, you'd pay 6K for him. So yeah, I'm in on Dobson. Don't mind Pulak at 4,900. The Dobson Pulak thing's kind of like Fox Truba Light. So like Pulak's the Truba in this situation. He gets the peripherals, so I'm fine with him. If you want to punt, Pellick 3,700, Mayfield 3,200, also fine.
All right, let's move it along to Vegas. 2.8 implied goal total. They're going into Winnipeg. The Winnipeg Jets have a 3.2 implied goal total. Obviously, Winnipeg traded Andrew Kopp. He will be gone. That's changed their lineup a little bit. It's pushed Nikolai Ehlers to the top line with Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler. Evgeny Svechnikov is moving up to the second line with Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois, while Paul Stastny goes from the first line to the third line. That's interesting because Nikolai Ehlers, like, we've honestly just been begging to, get him more minutes. Presumably playing on the top 5-on-5 line, he's going to get more minutes, but this is Winnipeg. They tend to just kind of screw with him every game. What do you think about this one?
Yeah. They're not putting Sanford, Stastny, Appleton together to be a shutdown lineup.
No, I can't imagine that.
It's like you would think Scheifele, Wheeler, Ehlers is going to go out against top comp tonight. Vegas back on the road. They are a mess and a half right now. Eichel's clearly hurt. He's playing through it. Pacioretty's out. Stone's out. Alec Martinez out. Riley Smith out. Robin Leonard out. Like, the list just goes on and on. Is Dadenoff on the team? The Senators forgot to submit the trade list, the no trade list, which is a scene. But, like, I don't know. I feel like Winnipeg 1's going to be popular here tonight, and it's fine. Like, with Ehlers up there, I'm much more likely to play them than Stasny. That being said, I still think I'm going to go to the second line here tonight. I just like Kyle Connor the best on this team right now. Kyle Connor, Dubois, and Evgeny Svechnikov at min price. When you watch that line play, he plays like he belongs there. So I'm in on that second line. You want to go to that top line, it's perfectly fine. You know, that line doesn't have a huge sample together. Scheifele and Ehlers have a pretty large sample together. They have pretty good offensive numbers, not great defensive numbers. You throw Wheeler into the mix, the defensive numbers probably won't get any better. Offensively, you know, they'll probably be a bit better 5-on-5 than they would with Stasny there. So I think there's some merit to going there. I don't know. I just prefer the second line for about the same ownership. They're a bit cheaper. Just personal preference. I think both are fine. On the Vegas side, I see almost double-digit ownership on the top line for Vegas. They just haven't looked right at that ownership. I'm going to take a pass. Like, back-to-back on the road, 11-game slate, double-digit ownership. That's just going to be a no for me. And going down the lineup, there just isn't much that I like.
Yeah, I agree with you. Back-to-back on the road, like they played last night in Minnesota, traveling to Winnipeg, back-to-back on the road, like you said. And Eichel, like, is that wrist injury, that wrist problem any better, right? The issue with that line, it's not like they're not playing well. The issue is that they're shooting 3%. And while I'd say, yes, that's going to turn itself around, if one of the guys is playing hurt, that, you know, with a hurt wrist, how much better is that 3% going to get? That's kind of the issue that I'm running into with Vegas here. And where they're not coming in at an ownership discount, like if they're 3 or 4%, like I would be considering them. 10%, like on an 11-game slate on the road on a back-to-back. No, thank you. So out on Vegas in this game, at least the Vegas forwards. On the Winnipeg side, it would be the Winnipeg top line for me. I hear what you're saying about the second line and no issues using them here. It's just that Scheifele and Ehlers do generate a lot of offense when they're together. North of 3 expected goals per 60 minutes, north of 35 scoring chances per 60 minutes. And they're going to get, you know, they're going to get a little bit of that Vegas top line, but I don't think there's really a matchup that is really concerning, especially when you can factor in the back-to-back. So, yeah, top line for me from Winnipeg, Winnipeg 2, just fine as well. Nothing for me on the Vegas side. On the blue line, you know, Josh Morrissey's still playing 1 million minutes a night for whatever reason. So I think he's just fine. Like, there are a lot of Vegas defensemen missing. They're basically missing 4 defensemen out of their lineup. So, like, if you want to go to the super cheap guys like Coughlin, Hutton, I think that's just fine here. I think this would be a good spot to go get one of your super cheap defensemen, especially on DraftKings where you're looking for blocks. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Coughlin, however you pronounce it. Ben Hutton's fine. I don't even know who those guys are on the third pair, so I would avoid them. On the Winnipeg side, yeah, Morrissey with either of the top lines is fine. Pionk with either of the top lines is fine. You want to punt DeMello, Dillon, or Logan Stanley, Jake Harry Witter.
Yeah, don't forget, as chat reminded us, this is flowchart season. This is a pretty good matchup for Winnipeg, especially when you factor in the back-to-back on the road. And we know what the flowchart says when it's a good matchup.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to do awful, and then they're going to hit 3 empty net goals. So that's just what's going to be.
Yeah, that's kind of the way that's going to work. Yeah, our flow chart usually says fade Winnipeg in good matchups, but tonight looks like we might be playing them. All right, let's get to this next game. Edmonton, 2.8 implied goal total. They're going into Dallas. Dallas has a 3.3 implied goal total. People were a little bit of panic with Joe Pavelski, not at morning skate, but they said he was fine. He's going to be in the lineup on the top line. So normal Dallas won back together. Edmonton played last night in Colorado, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so a little bit of travel for them. Another road back-to-back here, Josh. What do you think?
That was a great game. One thing I noticed in that game, if Roman Yossi didn't exist, Kale McCarr would be a lock for the Venza. That guy is electric. He's so fast. But, yeah, man, Kyler Yamamoto's turned his season around, hasn't he, playing with Connor McDavid? I don't know, man. He was just absolute poopers playing with Draisaitl in the beginning of the year, but has he turned it around with McDavid? That being said, it is back-to-back on the road. They still have issues defensively. Robertson hints Pavelski. Pavelski took a maintenance day. The coach said he's going to be in tonight. You have to take him at his word, I guess. You just don't know. Like, sometimes these coaches like, yeah, he's fine. And then, like, you find out he's on the IR, like, before the game. So you take the coach at the word here. You think Pavelski's in. They are one of the higher owned lines of the night. That being said, I think it's fine. Like Edmonton has issues defensively. They're back to back on the road. It's probably going to be Koskinen tonight. Not a huge upgrade from Mike Smith, honestly. So I'm in on Dallas 1. Just be aware of what you're doing. You know, that getting that high ownership on an 11-game slate, you know, it kind of narrows the path on what you can do with them. But it's still, if you love them, don't fade your guys because of ownership. Just get a little bit different. So Dallas 1 for me. Vladislav Nemesnikov's out tonight. I don't know. Like going down the lineup, there just isn't much else on the Dallas side. On the Oilers side, again, low-owned McDavid night. Like back-to-back on the road on 11-game slate, it kind of worries me a little bit. But like McDavid came down in price a little bit. 6% right now. Like Yamamoto's still 3,700 on the top power play. Like the Stars are, like they're battling for a playoff spot. It's just they're just not a great team. So like I don't mind going back to Edmonton 1 here. Especially like a McDavid Yamamoto 2-man, like is where it's not like overly expensive, and Yamamoto is going to be pretty low owned. So I don't mind Edmonton 1 tonight, but this is a Stars 1 game for me.
Yeah. Dallas's last home game with the New York Rangers in town, they were sending out their 4th line against the Rangers top line, which is something they've been doing a fair bit this year. Lord help this Dallas team if they send out Radek Faksa and Luke Glendening against Connor McDavid back to back or not. That Dallas line has just been not very good all season. I don't know why they keep going back to it as a shutdown line. Like they just keep getting run over. I mean, I understand it to an extent because they want to free up the top lines, especially the second line, because they're not very strong. But man, oh man, if McDavid and Yamamoto are going to get like 10 minutes at 5-on-5 against that 4th line, I agree with you. I think the Edmonton top line is very much in play here. You know, like you said, if you just want 2-man McDavid Yamamoto, it's a reasonably cheap 2-man, especially if you're going with a somewhat cheaper defenseman or just a 2-man. So like, yeah, I agree with you. That Edmonton top line is definitely in play for me here tonight. As far as the Dallas top line goes, like they've been dropping ice time of late. It's been inconsistent is the best way I can explain it. Like Jason Robertson, I was looking at his ice time of late. It's like his last 5 games, it's like 15, 17, 17, and then 21 and 23. It's like, well, is he going to play 15 minutes tonight or is he going to play 23 minutes tonight? Like that's not even close to the same type of player. And then, you know, the issues with Pavelski, like you mentioned, taking a maintenance day, it's coming in at like 15, 16, 17%. I think this is a spot where you can fade Dallas. I really do believe that. I have no problem fading a 15% line on an 11-game slate. That looks like what they're going to come in here as. If you want to play them, then play them. I don't think there's any problem with playing them specifically. I just want to get away from that super heavy ownership. And what isn't really a great spot, like Edmonton has been better defensively, at least since Woodcroft took over like a month ago. So yeah, I think I'm out on Dallas here. Maybe a little bit of Edmonton 1 though, especially some 2-mans. We'll see. I don't mind that matchup. I don't mind the price. I like the ownership. So yeah, maybe some Edmonton 1 for me here tonight. On the blue line, we talk about the extra minutes the Dallas guys are getting. I like Esa Lindell here tonight. You know, if you need a super punt in Hakanpää, that's all right. On the Edmonton side, if you're not correlating with Darnell Nurse, I don't know why you would be power play stacking the Edmonton Oilers here, you know, correlating with Tyson Barrie. But Cody Ceci playing 22 plus minutes a night of late. Don't mind him. What do you say?
Yeah, Cody Ceci, Cowboy Chris Russell. See Big Turk egging me on. Not today, Turkey. We got a big slate. Yeah, Cody Ceci, Chris Russell, the Cowboy, Jim Matheson's boy. Don't mind Esa Lindell. Klingberg is all right if you're correlating. Yanni Hakanpää, Jake's Finnish cousin, would be the min price punt.
Yeah. Don't forget Brett Kulak got traded to Edmonton too. He's all the way down to 2,500 for the Oilers. So I don't know how much ice time he gets, but at least another option there. Here at Awesemo, we have an Awesemo Hall of Fame where we like to celebrate subscriber success. So if you'd like to get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame, this is how you do it. You download the Awesemo avatar from awesemo.com/avatar. You place in the top 3 of a contest with at least 5,000 contestants. And if you do all that, you get a chance to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. You'll see Kelly Canuck. We talked about him yesterday on the show, finishing first place in college basketball over the weekend. Congrats to him. Nick Lepre works here at Awesemo, also did well in UFC, finishing third in that 2K to first over on DraftKings as well. Dave DeRemer has been absolutely crushing the parlays of late. Congrats to him on his 2-pick parlay there. Scott Boney had a massive night in NBA, taking down a bunch of first and single entry and 3 maxes, turned $55 into over 12K. So congrats to him. And finally, Brendan from Buffalo hit a 4-pick parlay as well, also in college basketball. Lots of March Madness stuff. So congrats to all the March Madness players. And congrats to all the winners. And if you want to get in the Awesemo Hall of Fame, awesemo.com/avatar, get the avatar, send your wins into the Awesemo Hoff account. Before we have a few games left, before we get out of here, if you guys could, please throw us a thumbs up, click that like button. The likes really help us out. Click the subscribe button if you haven't already, and make sure you click that bell to get alerts whenever we do go live. Coming up after us, the No House Advantage NBA show, Eitan and Terry at 3:30 Eastern. They're followed by the Locks Before Lock at 4:30 Eastern. That's our NBA prop betting show. And then they lead into the NBA double dose of the Deeper Dive and the Live Before Lock. All right, Josh. San Jose, 2.1 implied goal total. Going into Calgary, the Flames have a 3.9 implied goal total. I'll just say, I know they put Timo Meier back with Thomas Hertl. There's no one I want to play on the San Jose side, especially with Jacob Middleton gone now. He was the guy I would go to for blocks. I don't know. They said Ryan Merkley's going to be playing on the top pair with Erik Karlsson. I guess he's fine for punt, but there's nobody I want to play from San Jose. That team's might be worse than Arizona at the moment. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, the Flames have a huge total, and they move to Foley up to the top line and sexy. But then you look at their minutes, ugly.
Yeah,
Foley played 13 minutes last game. Lindholm played 16. Gaudreau played 15. Now it was back on the road, and they're absolutely just, as Niehaus would say, laying the wood to the Canucks. So maybe their minutes came down here, but they're in the playoffs here. Can they get it done in 15 minutes tonight? Yeah. You know what line looked really good, though? Dylan Dubé, Michael Backlund, Matty Tkachuk. They're kind of cheap, man. They're 12-9 to full stack. I don't know. I'm not really talking myself into that line. But, the Sharks, there's just nothing there to stop any of these lines. So, I would imagine the coach is going to spread out the minutes pretty heavily tonight. You're probably going to see most lines around 14, 15. The top line, 16, 17, something like that. So don't mind that third line of Coleman, Yarncroc, Mangiapane as a filler. Don't mind Dubé, Backlund, Tkachuk. The top line is fine. They just have minutes concerns. Can they get there in those minutes? Sure. But for that price, I'd rather just go to an Edmonton or a Dallas or a Tampa, or I don't even remember who we broke down earlier today, but one of the more expensive lines, you know what I mean? 15 minutes for that price worries me, despite the 3.9 total, because they have 4 playable lines, and the coach is going to roll 4 lines all night. So minutes are concerned. So yeah, I maybe will get to some Calgary 1. I'll more likely have some fillers of Calgary 2, Calgary 3. And I'll just go about my day. If Calgary 1 burns me and they're 14, 15, 16 minutes, so be it. I can't, put my faith in 16 minutes of an expensive line.
Yeah. And I think the other issue here with Calgary is the one thing San Jose is doing well is killing penalties.
Yeah.
They're bottom 10 for fewest expected goals against. Their penalty kill has been better than the Islanders of late, better than Vegas of late, better than, Minnesota, Los Angeles. And they're not allowing any goals either. The goaltending on the penalty kill has been good. All their problems are coming at 5-on-5. 5-on-5, they're atrocious. Close to Arizona bad. So I think if I were to focus on Calgary, it would be the 5-on-5 lines. And the one that kind of sticks out is Coleman, Yarncroc, Mangiapane. Coleman and Mangiapane have played exceptionally well together this year when they have skated together. We're looking at 30, 35, 36 scoring chances generated per 60 minutes. I don't think Yarncroc is going to hurt them. And you get that Calgary line going to the second and third lines against the Sharks, man, it's going to be a problem. So I think, honestly, all the Calgary lines are really in play here tonight. But for me, it's less about the power play matchup and more about the 5-on-5 matchup. And, that includes pricing, that includes ownership and all that. And for that reason, Calgary 3, Coleman, Yarncroc, Mangiapane, going to be one of my fillers tonight. You 2-man them, 3-man them, do what you want. And like I said, any of the 3 Calgary lines, perfectly fine to use. I just think for a mix of ice time, ownership, upside, I think it is that Calgary third line I will be looking towards. On the blue line, Noah Hannafin still under 4K, seems perfectly fine to me on the Flames side. Obviously, if you are power play stacking or line one stacking Rasmus Anderson for some additional exposure. Like I said, Ryan Merkley playing with Erik Karlsson. He's supposed to be a good prospect, hasn't really gotten there yet, but min price, I guess it's fine, but really nothing for me from San Jose.
Yeah, I agree. It's just really the top pair for me on Calgary, depending on what you want to do. Like, I don't know. Don't want to play in the fives for Burns or Karlsson on this team.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, let's get to an absolute dandy here.
The main event of the evening.
Seattle, 2.8 implied goal total going into Arizona. Arizona Coyotes have a 3.1 implied goal total. Did Seattle trade their checking line? Mason Appleton, Calle Yarncroc, and Colin Blackwell. I think there's one guy there that I'm missing that instead of Blackwell, but I think they traded their entire checking.
Yanni Gourde is still there.
Yeah, they do still have Yanni Gourde, but Seattle definitely playing a bit shorthanded when you consider they did trade an entire line, and this was not a deep forward group to begin with. They also traded Mark Giordano, who had missed who got sat out of their last game, but he is gone now as well. I think that's why you're seeing Arizona with a 3.1 total. All that said, Arizona is not a very good team in their own right, arguably the worst 5-on-5 team in the NHL over the last 6 weeks. So I do think there's something to play on both sides. What do you think, Josh?
I go back to my boys here, Yanni Gourde, Ryan Donato. I actually do like Morgan Geekie there as well. He shoots the puck. That line is super cheap. They're probably, if I was 20 maxing, they'd definitely be in the filler mix here. They're getting, 4% ownership, which is a little bit higher than I wanted. But, Gordon, Donato, both on the top power play. Geekie on the second power play. That line seems like it may mesh well together. Who knows what the matchup's going to be on the Coyotes? It doesn't really matter. If McCann was on the top line with Schwartz and Eberle, I would really like that line. But, McCann's on the third line with Daniel Sprong and Jonas Donskoy, who has 1 goal this season. So, I do like McCann. I don't really like his line mates here. I'm not sure how Sprong fits onto this team here. So, for me, you want to use that top line with Wenberg. I guess it's fine. Wenberg, Eberle, top power play for 6K against the Coyotes in a really good power play spot is fine. For me, I'm probably going to go to Geekie, Gourde, Donato. On the Coyote side, if anything, I'm going to go to Keller, Boyd, Schmaltz. They're getting 6% ownership, though. I don't know if I want to play 6% Coyotes. On an 11-game slate, there's other lines around that price, around that ownership that I would want to play more. And, that's probably about it.
My problem with that Arizona line,
shooting percentage.
26% this month. 26%. You don't get that. That's a power play riding hot, and they're shooting that at 5-on-5. That they can't maintain half that. That's kind of the problem here. And eventually it's just going to completely crash. Does it happen here tonight against Seattle or not? Like you said, I think there are other filler lines in that range that I do like better. I talked about Carolina 2 earlier in the show. That would be one of the fillers that I like here. Los Angeles 1, we talked about Islanders 1. Those are all lines that I would like better than Arizona 1 here tonight. eventually they're not playing well. Like they're playing under 40% of the scoring chance share when they're on the ice. It's just, when you're scoring on 1 out of every 4 shots, you're going to look pretty good. So I don't know, man. I'm out on Arizona. I know it's a fairly good matchup against Seattle. But they're not terrible defensively, and they don't take a ton of penalties. They are taking more, but not a ton. So I think I'm out on Arizona forwards here. It'd be the top line if anything. But I'm out on them. It is Gord Donato that I like in this matchup as a 2-man. They've been very good in a small sample together. Gord, it seems like once he got away from that Appleton Yarncroc duo or whatever it was, has started to play a lot better. So yeah, Gordon Donato for me. On the blue line, I mean, nothing really sticks out to me. Like I guess Vinny Dunn is probably going to take over the top power play unit here for Seattle. So, 3,300 top power play against a bad penalty kill, I think is fine. What do you think?
Yeah, I like Vinny Dunn, assuming he takes over the power play. I don't imagine why he wouldn't. On the Coyote side, Dyson Mayo maybe, but he's a little pricey for my Mayo taste.
Yeah. All right, real quick, let's get through this last game. Nashville, 2.9 implied goal total. Going into Los Angeles, the Kings have a 3.1 implied goal total. Nashville on a back-to-back. David Riddick probably going to start. He's been playing the back-to-backs for them this year. So I'm assuming it'll be Riddick for Nashville. On the Los Angeles side, you're seeing a fair bit of ownership on both their top 2 lines because they're A, both playing very well, and B, not very expensive. That worries me. I will say I do like Los Angeles 1 here tonight. They should be getting some depth matchups as they're taking less of the quote shutdown minutes of late. So Los Angeles 1 for me in this game, and it'll be the first game I fade Roman Josi in a little while. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'll start with the LA Kings second line. Now they're coming in at like 13%, which is maybe validated. Their numbers together are incredible. They've been going out against the top comp a fair amount. Now, the one thing I will say about Nashville is you like to attack that penalty kill. You had to nose on the top power play here, but Moore's not even on the second unit. Kaliev's on the second unit. So if you want to use them for 5-on-5, like that's fine. But like I want to concentrate on the power play here. It's going to be LA1. If they see a bunch of Tolvin and Granlund Cunnin, it's still a good 5-on-5 matchup too, but they can take advantage of a porous penalty kill without probably UC Saros in net. So it's LA1 for me. You want to go back to Nashville 1 here. You can make a case for it. Roman Josi, 8,700. Back-to-back on the road. It seems like a fade. But, man, like, do you ride the wave? Like, you take a chance maybe in MME to ride that wave because he's just going absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, I agree with that. He has been very, very good. All right, we got to get out of here, Josh. I'm going to ask you for your hat trick picks and your goalies. My hat trick pick, I don't even know where he's playing, but Jakub Vrana is my hat trick pick here tonight. My goalies are Connor Hellebuyck, Vemelka, Jake Ottinger, and Andrei Vasilevsky. Who you got?
Yeah, I like those. I wrote them down. There was a punt that Anton Forsberg, 6,800. I think you can get a little spicy with. I prefer him to like 6,700 James Reimer because Calgary is just a juggernaut at this point. Yeah. And my hat trick pick is going to be Yanni Gourde.
Ooh, that's spicy. I like it. Yanni Gourde, Jakub Vrana are your hat trick picks. All right, we are out of here. No house advantage coming up. And then locks before lock. Lots of NBA coming up after us. We will be back tomorrow. Until then, for producer Tyler, for Josh, our single entry assassin, I'm Michael Clifford saying good luck tonight, everybody.